I was on Twitter and somebody asked me, what do you do when your main road through your city looks like that?
The brainchild of city engineer Herbert Manzoni, work on the Inner Ring Road began in 1957 and was completed in 1971. This took an existing street pattern around the city centre and created a network of tunnels and major roads. At the same time, a number of buildings were swept away to create 1960s redevelopment sites, including New Street Station. The Inner Ring Road became a segregated feature where pedestrians were expected to use subways and footbridges while traffic had its own level. This was deemed to be a problem by the 1990s, and plans were drawn up to eliminate what was now being derided as the concrete collar. In 2002, the notorious Massau Circus was the first part of the Inner Ring Road to be completely demolished. However, signs still referred to the Inner Ring Road as late as 2009. An interesting story that was not confirmed until the early 2010s was that the original name for the entire network was Ringway. Maps in the 1960s showed this, but when the final section was completed in 1971 and opened by the Queen, she mistakenly referred to this tunnel and the entire network as the Queensway. Originally, only the tunnel should have had that name. Rather than pointing out this mistake, Birmingham City Council went and changed all the street nameplates. So instead of being called Ringway, the whole system became known as the Queensways, and that's stuck ever since. Except for when the redevelopment on the eastern side took place, when it was changed back to Ringway. So now you know.
You can probably tell this is not the most pleasant place in the whole of central Birmingham, and the reason is quite obvious. It is the road that causes the problem. You see, all this road does is it moves traffic through the city. None of these people are stopping in it, they're all going to and from. So Birmingham has decided that this is probably no longer the way to do things. But the way the city's laid out, closing this would cause no end of problems right now. So what can you do? The problem is once you've demolished everything to build your road, developers don't necessarily turn up to rebuild around it. So you end up with these sort of zombie spaces which just get used as bomb site car parks. They're not very attractive, they don't entice people into your city, but they make money for the council. So there's a bit of a dilemma now. Do you sell them off to developers and upset your I want to park in the city centre movement, or do you do something with it, create a livable space? But the question remains, who's going to live here next to this? There are of course things you can do. Several people want to demolish this bit of road, others want to repurpose it for other things. So what would you do?
One short-term idea, assuming that the tunnels are not going to be closed to through traffic anytime soon, would be to remove the weaving space between the Queensway and St Chad's tunnel portals. This gets rid of a huge pedestrian barrier and allows you to remove a footbridge which is unpleasant to use. This would allow development on the north side of the A38 whilst still maintaining some movement function on the Queensway.
In this side of the city they've already sorted it out. You cycle through this tunnel now. 50 years ago this was the main road through the city centre. Now you can't use it in a car. That is what political will and a bit of thinking can get you. You don't need to do big infrastructure projects to take cars out of cities. Just reallocate road space. So from car-dominated urban motorway to cycle-friendly underpass in the space of 5 decades.
I really don't know where I stand on the subject of the old Birmingham Inner Ring Road. As a piece of infrastructure, it's absolutely fascinating, the engineering, the history, but the social cost is quite high, and we just wouldn't plan roads like this today. This is very much a relic of its time. But to just simply demolish everything that was done feels a bit like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Indeed, an absolute fortune was spent recently on renovating these tunnels, so it's quite apparent that the City Council intends to keep them for the foreseeable future. So what do you think should be done? I've given some ideas, but let's have a conversation. Keep it civil in the comments, and I'll look forward to reading them and interacting with you on them. Until then, I'll see you next time.